Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Thanks for joining us. Kicking off tonight when the feds come banging at your door. Now, there are a lot of things about Obamacare that we think are awful. The huge cost, for one. The fact that it's going to cause rationing, we think it will. And the fact that it is already discouraging folks from becoming doctors. And a lot of doctors are quitting. But the worst thing about it is the extra power that it gives the federal government to enforce its cockeyed mandates in the sanctity of our own homes. Federal agents will eventually be empowered to force their way into your homes and treat you like criminals if you don't choose to buy insurance for yourselves or your families. That's one reason why the Obama administration wants to hire 16,000 more IRS agents to enforce Obamacare. Now, imagine what a few of these federal rates, just a couple of them, would do to the already strained social contract between the individual and the federal government. Now, one man who has warned us about all of this is running for president to change all of this, and he joins us now. That is Congressman Ron Paul. Congressman, that's what scares me the most about Obamacare. It does increase the coercive power of the feds. Is that what worries you the most?
Well, there's no doubt about it. But, yes, that's a main thing. But I know the consequence of allowing governments to do that, to coerce us into programs like this, it diminishes the quality. That means that you can expect, and you already mentioned that doctors are quitting and fewer will want to go in. So the quality of care, if that's the goal, they destroy everything. They destroy our freedoms of choice. It costs a lot more, and it destroys the quality. And they still argue that they're the humanitarians. That's what galls me, is the fact that they take the moral high ground, and then we who believe in freedom and liberty and good quality care and know how to get prices down, then they paint us as uncaring. That's the subject we have to address.
By the way, for those who don't know, this man is also a medical doctor. He's not only a congressman. Would you go into medicine again today if you were just starting out, knowing that we may be moving towards socialized medicine?
Well, I thought we were moving in that direction even a long time ago, and we were. And of course, when I got out of medical school, I did not. We did not have Medicare or Medicaid. But I stayed in medicine, and I dealt with this by not participating in the programs. But now you don't have much choices. Now I have 3 of my children have become physicians. I neither encourage them nor discourage them because they went into medicine for the right reason. So it's a shame to want to be a doctor and help your fellow man. At the same time, you have to be putting up with the bureaucracy and authoritarianism and undermining the very quality practice that you want to participate in. So to me, it's a real tragedy.
And you know, people do have vocations, obviously, to become a doctor. It's not just about money, but you don't want to spend your life fighting a bureaucracy instead of fighting to save lives. That's why a lot of people are turning away from medicine.
Yeah, it is, but to not discourage people too much, but I agree with you 100%, but the federal government's bearing down on all of us everywhere, on everything that we do. What if you wanted to be a quality school teacher and have a little bit of creativity? And what do you have to do? You end up spending all your time teaching No Child Left Behind. So we're all in this together. Matter of fact, I stayed off the committees that dealt with medical problems purposely because I didn't ever want people to think I went there to make sure the government stayed out of medicine, because I think it's the principle of liberty that affects all of us, whether it's medicine or education or business. We know all about all the regulations and monetary systems. So if you're an honest broker, you know, it's pretty tough, you know, trying to figure out what the government's going to do.
By the way, to your point about education, I was teaching in the late 70s, just a couple of months really after the implementation of the Department of Education. Even then, we were being forced to use teaching methods that all of the teachers agreed weren't working, but we had to use them just so that we could get the federal grants from the Department of Education. So even way back 30 years ago, Department of Ed was standing in the way of good education instead of helping. Okay, let's talk about some of the coercive powers that the government now has and how we might change it, how you might change it, or how you would like to change it if you become president. First of all, the IRS. I'm for getting rid of the whole damned institution. What about you?
I'm with you, and I have something I've introduced over the many years. It's called the Liberty Amendment. And it gets rid of the 16th Amendment, gets rid of the IRS, but it also prohibits after 3 years, the federal government can't participate in anything that is designed for the private sector to take care of, and it's not authorized in the Constitution. Because you can't really expect to solve our problem of the IRS and heavy taxation unless we change the appetite of the people for big government. Yeah. You know, the big argument now is how many people want entitlements and how many people want to quit paying for the entitlements. And right now, there's still a lot of people who are lining up for their entitlements, and they think they have entitlements now are considered rights by nearly half of the people.
So let me just make sure I understand you. So you're saying before we put forth getting rid of the IRS, we have to convince the American public, those who have become accustomed to government help, that they shouldn't get government help?
No, I think you do them together. It's just that if you and I had a program where we're just going to get rid of the income tax, you know, and we don't cut spending and cut the appetite for big government, it's not going to happen. And say we did get rid of the income tax and they put a sales tax on us of 35 or 40%, that won't solve our problem. It's the appetite for money coming from us that makes the big difference. And I think long term, the people in this country have to ask the question, what should the role of government be? And for me, it's to defend liberty and not to run a welfare state and not to police the world.
You know, a lot of those questions, though, I've seen all those questionnaires you're talking about, the polls saying that, you know, essentially Americans are too stuck on what they get from the government to get rid of it. But very often it's the way you ask the question. If you had a choice between no income tax or no IRS and some of the benefits that you're now getting from government, I bet people would choose no IRS. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think.
You know, I think you might be right. And one angle that I've tried at some of my speeches is to say that, you know, the government, everybody tells you, you now have to sacrifice for us to get back on our feet again. And I keep thinking, what if we got rid of the income tax and you got to keep everything and deregulated the economy and change the whole system? I don't think a lot of people would feel like they're sacrificing. They'd feel like a burden is off their shoulders. Exactly. So we'd say, wow, this sounds pretty good. So the only people who would have to sacrifice are the ones who are living off their neighbor or living off somebody else who has to work for a living.
Dr. Paul, we're almost out of time. I just got to ask one question about the debt ceiling. If the vote is not made to increase the debt ceiling, what goes first? And we run out of money. What goes first? Our payment to our bondholders, our creditors, or spending? What do you think will be cut first?
Well, I don't think they'll cut the payments to the bondholders, and I'm predicting they're going to raise the debt limit because they're going to, drum up enough fear that everybody will have to capitulate, and then there will be a pretense they're going to cut spending. But let's say it doesn't happen. Right. I think they could just say, they could make an announcement, we're going to reassure the bondholders that we're going to pay you first, which means that they're going to have to shortchange somebody else, you know, and that's when it's going to be tough. And that's the reason why I don't think it's going to happen, and I don't think they're ready to cut. And I personally won't vote for the debt increase, even if there are promises that 5 to 10 years out we're going to be serious and cut the deficit. I've heard too many of those promises. You have to cut it now. The only budget that counts is this year. And this year, our obligation is going to go up $5 trillion when you add up everything.
Yeah, don't trust these promises. They don't amount to much. Dr. Paul, great to see you again. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.